Okay, let's check in and see where we're at today when it comes to the country's increasingly rapid descent into full-blown authoritarianism. Because while ICE raids in LA have gotten more intense, with masked men still hitting the softest possible targets like Home Depots, churches, schools, farmers markets, street vendors, and construction sites.
Yeah, all the places where known violent criminals just hang out.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. That's where the worst of the worst are. Home Depot and church.
While that was happening, Department of Homeland Security Secretary and dog killer Kristi Noem appeared in Los Angeles to hold a press briefing about those ICE operations as well as the military presence in our city. Now, during the briefing, which was filled with the same exaggerations and outright lies that have been perpetrated for days now, she mentioned that the agencies and military will remain here until they liberate Los Angeles from our own elected officials.
The Department of Homeland Security and the officers and the agencies and the departments and the military people that are working on this operation will continue to sustain and increase our operations in this city. We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country.
Okay, well,
like literally a day ago, we were exaggerating slightly for effect when we said that the U.S. government had declared war on California, but
it's seeming like that might be true.
She is describing exactly that.
Yeah, I really don't know what else there is to say at this point. The Trump administration is just straight up admitting that they are using military force against residents of one of the largest cities in the country, and the officials that our city and state have elected to serve them both locally and in Congress.
Yeah.
So
this is so beyond the pale. And those comments initially weren't noticed by a lot of people because of something else that happened. So yeah, immediately after her remarks of using all resources to liberate Los Angeles, the senior senator of the state of California, Alex Padilla, attempted to ask Kristi Noem a question and was abruptly and forcefully shoved out of the room and detained while loudly identifying himself as Senator Alex Padilla. It was an intense moment, and the entire thing was luckily caught on tape from multiple angles, which is good because the Republican Party immediately reacted by saying that Padilla had lunged at Noem and didn't identify himself. He could have had a gun.
Who knows?
And he stormed the room where the press conference was happening. It's
crazy what happened.
He's lucky we didn't shoot him.
Yeah.
Here's the video first, and then we'll get into the rest.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
Hands on your back.
If you let my hands go and put them behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording loud out here.
Okay, so first of all, the idea that a press briefing with the Secretary of Homeland Security wouldn't have vetted every single person in that tiny room is absurd. We know firsthand that multiple local outlets submitted requests for press credentials and were outright denied. So the idea that anyone ever felt threatened by anyone in that room is ridiculous. Secondly, there are only a couple dozen senators in the entire country. And if DHS wasn't aware that one was in the room, that's also entirely unbelievable.
Yeah, you're bad at your job.
They knew who he was. They knew he was there. He never lunged at anyone, and it's straight up disinformation to say otherwise, considering video and audio of the event is widely available everywhere.
Yeah, the senator identified himself multiple times and was still shoved out of the room, handcuffed, and detained while Noem simply kept on talking like nothing happened at all.
Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
But let's see how Speaker of the House Mike Johnson framed all of this.
That's oversight, charging a cabinet secretary in a press conference. I beg to differ. I think that people do as well. I think those actions speak for themselves. When members go into these settings and act this way, that when they push law enforcement agents around, when they storm cabinet secretaries in a press conference, I think it is wildly inappropriate behavior, and I think it sets a terrible message and tone for the rest of the country. Yes, I do think that it merits immediate attention by their colleagues over there, and that they need. I think that that behavior at a minimum is, it rises to the level of a censure. I think there needs to be a message sent by the body as a whole that that is not what we are going to do. That's not how we're going to act. We're not going to have branches fighting physically and having senators charging cabinet secretaries. We got to do better.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Mike.
That's obviously outrageous. And the idea that they're now going to attempt to censor Senator Padilla is absurd. And as for dog killer Kristi Noem, she claims to have no idea who the senator was and kept referring to him as some man while doing interviews with Fox News and repeating the lie that he didn't identify himself.
We were conducting a press conference to update everyone on the enforcement actions that are ongoing to bring peace to the city of Los Angeles. And this man burst into the room, started lunging towards the podium, interrupting me and elevating his voice, and was stopped, did not identify himself.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary.
Now, we're going to spare you some of the analysis done by the rest of the chuds over on Fox News because it was making my blood boil. Like, right after this happened, The Five came on, and it was just, I couldn't believe what I was like Fox is awful, but I could not believe how quickly they twisted the truth about what happened despite the video and audio evidence of what happened.
There's a parallel reality.
Yeah, and it's just
they live in.
Outright lies in the most vile sense, especially coming from Jesse Waters and that little goober Greg Gutfeld, who looks more and more like a dehydrated piece of dog shit with every passing day. Now, as for Senator Padilla himself, here's a very brief snippet of his statement following the detainment.
I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information. And at one point, I had a question. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground. And I was handcuffed. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
Yeah, and he makes a good point. If they're willing to do this to a sitting U.S. senator, that does kind of illustrate maybe how they're willing to treat just any old person.
And you know what? Many such examples in the past couple of days.
Yeah,
like there's already happening.
Turns out there's ample documentation of that.
Yeah.
Now, not that we need to mention it again, but all of this is happening to a city that was completely normal and calm just 1 week ago.
Yeah.
And it's a city that is also not under siege from violent mobs. The only group terrorizing communities at scale are ICE agents. But this press briefing from Kristi Noem came at an awkward moment in Trump's immigration crackdown because as she was perpetuating this narrative that it was necessary for ICE agents to go and raid restaurants, churches, Home Depots, farms, and so on, Trump had struck an entirely different tone just a few hours prior, indicating that, now that you mention it, maybe they shouldn't be going after day laborers and farm workers and service workers because I'm not going to actually say this out loud, but it does occur to me now that huge parts of our economy are actually on the shoulders of these people and will come to a grinding halt if this ICE shit keeps up.
Not to mention Trump himself has notoriously fucking employed people without documents at his various resorts.
So I know they went to Oxnard and Ventura a couple days ago.
Luckily, a lot of the farms just closed the gates and wouldn't allow them in because if they don't have an actual warrant, they can't go in there.
But yeah, I believe they've gone deeper into the California Central Valley is, if that were to suddenly cease to operate.
You ain't eating.
Yeah, you're not eating, buddy. That is America's breadbasket.
But still, you and your little Grovels wannabe, Stephen Miller, started all this shit. But here's what Trump said on Thursday morning, just a few hours before Kristi Noem essentially supercharged the efforts and stated that their methods will continue as planned. From Reuters,
U.S. President Donald Trump said he would issue an order soon to address the effects of his immigration crackdown on the country's farm and hotel industries, which rely heavily on migrant labor. Our farmers are being hurt badly, and we're going to have to do something about that. We're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think, Trump said at a White House event, adding that the order would address the hotel sector, too. We're all looking for the guy who's did this.
Who possibly could have done this? Oh, no, my stars. Jeez.
He did not say what changes the order would implement or when it would take effect. Representatives for the White House and Department of Homeland Security had no specific comment about the order, while representatives at the Department of Agriculture could not be immediately reached. Now, it doesn't really seem like he has any idea what he's doing, which makes sense because his brain is cooked.
Yeah.
And Nome, alongside Stephen Miller, seemed to just be running the show. Yeah. I mean, just less than 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court gave him the thumbs up to outright revoke the legal status of 500,000 immigrants who were here legally. So, to put that in the simplest terms, over 500,000 were here in the United States legally, and now they are technically here illegally because his administration revoked their legal status, thus making them criminals and allowing ICE agents to go after them. Here's the AP from a few days ago.
The Supreme Court on Friday again cleared the way for the Trump administration to strip temporary legal protections from hundreds of thousands of immigrants for now, pushing the total number of people who could be newly exposed to deportation to nearly 1 million. The justices lifted a lower court order that kept humanitarian parole protections in place for more than 500,000 migrants from 4 countries: Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The court did not explain its reasoning in the brief order, as is typical on its emergency docket. 2 justices publicly dissented. Now, in the most recent update, DHS is ordering all of those immigrants who recently had legal status, by the way, to just leave. Hey, you know how you were
they're
here,
criminals now.
You know how you were here completely legally? We took that back, and now you have to fucking go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious...
Despite the fact that
America suddenly has 500,000 more criminals than it did before we did the thing that we did, and we got to do something about it.
Unbelievable. Here's the BBC. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants who were given special permission to come to the U.S. will be told that they must leave the country immediately. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement Thursday that Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans who were previously temporarily shielded from deportation will be emailed notices telling them to go.
I'm so curious how that's going to go over in southern Florida.
Yeah,
Trump country down there. They love Donald Trump.
Well, unfortunately, one of the sheriffs from one of the counties in Florida was very bloodthirsty in a recent statement.
We will shoot you.
Yeah, he was like, if any of this happens, you're gonna have to call the cemeteries to figure out where they're at.
Yeah, it's very over the top. But I'm saying, like, the Latinos for Trump, very heavily concentrated in Florida, especially among the Cuban and Venezuelan refugee communities. And this is kind of a huge slap in the face to them. But hey, this is what you voted for. So, but again, these are folks who were here legally, did everything exactly how they were supposed to. And suddenly, with the stroke of a pen, they're no longer legal. And they're being forced to leave right now. We're sure that this will increase the intensity of ICE raids around the country because a whole lot of new targets just got acquired. Mm-hmm. And of course, this also coincides with, as we've said numerous times already, agents going after people who are appearing at their court hearings. Again, going through the legal process to legally remain and work in the country and getting arrested while doing so. They show up in court and ICE agents are there waiting for them because they know where to find them. It is abhorrent.
Yeah.
Here's AOC commenting on this earlier on Thursday amidst everything else going on.
They are trying to end legal status in the United States as well, correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. And I want to make that very clear, and I yield back.
Also, quick update, because an interview with Senator Padilla and CNN took place just before we were about to film. And in the interview, he mentions that he was actually escorted into the press briefing by a member of the National Guard and an FBI agent. So, yeah, like we like we assumed, he had every right to be there. They knew he was there. He's
Especially
elected-
as an elected official, he has the right to be there.
He has the right to be there.
He is the senator of our area in California. Like, yes.
Yeah. He was escorted there by people who knew who he was. So,
Or it was a setup, because if the National Guard and the FBI walk him in and they're like, all right, yeah, go nuts.
I mean, we just talked about how all these like routine immigration hearings are essentially setups.
Yeah.
So yeah, could be another setup. Pretty dishonest shit.
Yeah. Here's a clip of the interview.
From the moment I entered the building, I'm being escorted by a member of the National Guard and an FBI agent. I asked, well, since we're waiting, can we go listen into the press conference? They escort me over to the press conference. They opened the door for me.
All right, so this is where we are once again going to go ahead and plug the nationwide rallies that are happening this weekend. It's a nice activity-based hangout, so you won't feel awkward or alone if you attend, because there will be plenty to see and do, and you will be actively participating in what actually makes this country great. Expressing your First Amendment rights, and by just being there, fighting back against the authoritarianism that has been cranked up to fucking 11 in recent days. And also just, weeks and months and years of festering authoritarianism just happening in the darkness or just out in broad daylight.
It's very much in the daylight now.
The website nokings.org has a handy guide for what to expect and where you can go to find your closest rally. Now, obviously, these are peaceful rallies that will exist to simply show the administration that the country doesn't back his outrageous show of force and overreach. So keep an eye out for instigators who might try to turn things into something they are not. But with these big rallies, it really is mostly normies who otherwise might not show up for something like this. So it's a good place to be with your community.
And they got these everywhere. I started having some fun last night on the No Kings website, just trying to find the most unlikely places for a No Kings rally. And what set this off was I zoomed out of LA and I was like, wait, what's that? There's a No Kings rally on Catalina Island. There's a fucking Catalina No Kings rally. And then I was like, all right, let's go up to like the Cape Cod area and like all those little islands got them. There's no excuse. You have one near you.
I have family that live in what was Kristi Noem's like area where she was representing, and there's rallies there too. And that is deep Trump country. So,
well, except for the reservations.
Yeah.
They probably got one there too.
But that's why it is important to get involved. It will definitely give you a good sense of community. It will show you that you're not alone, and you can feel good knowing that you did something, anything in the face of what's happening right now.
Yeah, get off the couch.
So again, nokings.org to find one near you. And with that little break between the horrors, let's take a very brief moment to mention our sponsor before we get into the second half of the video.
Who's hungry? I know I've been forgetting to eat properly over the past week or so. Is that a symptom of anything?
know.
Probably not. Luckily, I don't have to think about what's for dinner because Tempo has done the work for me, and they can do it for you too. Tempo is this episode's sponsor, and when you think about fast food, you probably think about unhealthy, thought-out patties dripping with grease. But when you're on a tight schedule and need to save time, you might not have any other option. If that sounds familiar, you need to check out Tempo. Tempo can provide you with protein-packed fuel to save time without compromising your health goals. Tempo is a weekly delivery service that delivers chef-crafted meals from a dietitian-approved menu fresh to your door.
Tempo serves up fast, feel-good, single-serving meals that are crafted to cook in just 3 minutes, so you can eat well without sacrificing taste or convenience. With new recipes each week that are made with real ingredients and nutrient-rich, they make it easy to keep up a healthy lifestyle. Tempo's perfectly portioned lunches and dinners take the guesswork out of eating well, are fully prepared, and can be heated in the microwave in just 3 minutes. Tempo offers a variety of meals for different dietary and taste preferences, including protein-packed, calorie-conscious, carb-conscious, and fiber-rich. For a limited time, Tempo is offering our viewers 60% off your first box. So go to tempomeals.com/todaydaily. That is tempomeals.com/todaydaily. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Okay. Back to the news now, and we're going to try desperately to give you some lighter news stories because, baby, you deserve it. And baby, we deserve it. And we've all been on the receiving end of a lot of bullshit for the past few days, and since we were on the topic of those No Kings rallies, if it weren't obvious already, these nationwide rallies are in response to Trump's egregious military parade in D.C., filled with tanks and a bunch of other types of chest-puffing bullshit that dictators the world over, throughout history, time immemorial, all love to do when they're in a position of weakness.
Yeah.
Well, there is a chance that Trump's big birthday and military parade might not actually happen. Or at least it might not happen the way that he hopes it will.
Yeah.
So look, we're not religious in any sense, but it would be really, really funny if Trump's parade was canceled because major thunderstorms are scheduled for the D.C. area right around the time of his little stupid parade.
Hey, look, I'm not religious, but God, as someone said online, I've seen what you do for others.
Yeah.
I'd like you to do that for
I
me.
mean, when we were in D.C.
Send the thunderstorms.
We were in D.C. a month ago, and when the storms come into D.C., they pound the city hard.
Yeah.
So, not surprising. So yeah, it looks like there's a chance of that maybe happening.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. If it happens, there is a God. If it doesn't happen, we live in hell.
Yeah.
Although, as everyone's already aware, they could just use Joe Biden's trusty weather gun to make it all go away.
Yeah.
But we're holding out hope that God, if you're out there, he's really got it in for Donald Trump. He's a sinner. You got to make him pay. Here's the Washington Post with more.
Huge crowds are anticipated for Saturday in D.C. for events marking the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. But the weather may not fully cooperate. A sluggish front drifting southward could spark showers and thunderstorms that threaten to disrupt the celebrations. And they indicated that planned events will take place from around 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whoa, way too long. And the main show will be happening between 6:30 and 10 p.m., which is when a storm is supposed to pass through that area. Lightning is perhaps the most concerning potential hazard, considering the large number of people who will be outside in open spaces and a considerable distance from shelter. Thunderstorms are possible, though it's still unclear whether they would be scattered or widespread. The greatest risk is between 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. Attendees should stay weather aware, have a shelter plan, and follow the National Weather Service's advice. When thunder roars, go indoors. I think the National Weather Service could probably use a little bit more funding.
National
now.
Weather
And
Service-
if they don't release any updates to this, I mean,
Yeah, the NWS is like one 19-year-old sitting at a desk, sitting at like a RGB gaming PC.
yeah, he's got the VR
being like,
headset on,
"Fuck."
watching the storm fronts. He's like, wait, I don't know. What is that?
What do I do?
There's also some potential for torrential rain that could result in areas of flooding, particularly during the evening. Ahead of any storms, it will be very warm and humid, meaning hydration will be important for anyone spending a long time outside. During the afternoon, it will feel like 90 degrees, taking into account the humidity.
Sounds like it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, it sounds like a real fun time. So, look, will heavy rain and thunderstorms ruin Trump's parade? Maybe, maybe not. But it would be really funny if it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if not that, the sweltering heat and the fact that boomers, specifically ones that voted for Trump, never drink any water.
They don't.
They should, but they don't.
Because if there's no hose nearby, what are they
They're
supposed
only
to
going
do?
to get out of a hose. The boomers I know, they do drink like sports drinks, but they don't drink water.
Yeah,
They
they'll-
drink fucking Gatorade
have,
and
like,
body armor.
8 Diet Cokes in a row.
There's water in Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Also, like it sounds like a lot of like Republican Congress people are not exactly planning to attend this thing.
Yeah.
Probably because it's going to be hot and miserable outside, and they'd rather take the weekend off.
Also, yeah, it's a bad look if you don't want to go down in the history books as supporting this. So
I don't think they're concerned about that.
It's
honestly.
mostly just
if they were concerned about that, they could have. Now is not the time to start having a conscience, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, some late breaking news here as we're finishing up the episode. Okay, let's start with the good news first.
Yeah.
California governor, our governor,
big tough guy.
our motherfucker, Gavin Newsom, who only we are allowed to be mean to.
Yeah. And when he's good, we can be nice
Yeah.
to him.
You are not allowed to comment on Gavin Newsom positively or negatively.
Unless you
Only
live
we
in
can.
California.
Only we can. He's a motherfucker, but he's our motherfucker.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's going to regain control of the California National Guard after a court ruled against the Trump administration because obviously,
Yeah.
which is great. But as of when we filmed, the Marines were still deployed and Newsom doesn't have any control over them. And we've yet to see whether or not he will call back the National Guard. Based on his statements over the past few days, it would seem as though it's likely he will pull them out of Los Angeles. Also, the Trump administration immediately issued a request for appeal, and they're going to drag this out in the courts. But for now,
Yeah.
it's back in
Starting
Newsom's
tomorrow, early tomorrow, he will have control. And I'm sure the National Guard's going to love this tug of war. Just like, all right, what am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, they're not.
Maybe
allowed,
they'll get to sleep in their own beds for one night. That would be nice for them, huh?
They're not allowed to talk to the media, but I have read some reports speaking to basically like organizations for families of troops and spouses of troops, and they're not bound by that same code. And yeah, it sounds like morale is fucking dog shit.
Yeah.
They do not feel useful, or
Some of
this
the
is not
most-
what they signed up for.
Even with the ICE agents, some of the most effective forms of protest have been just demoralizing them.
Yeah.
Like when everyone goes to their hotels and just yells through megaphones so they can't sleep.
Speaking of which, I didn't see where they're staying tonight. But
Yeah.
if it's somewhere nearby, maybe I'll go and
Just go yell.
maybe I'll go and just park my car and press that red button on my clicker and go get a bite to eat.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. I don't know. I walked away. It was just
Someone must have kicked it.
Tried
I
to
don't
break
know.
in.
Anyway, here's NPR with more on this ruling. A federal judge has ruled against President Trump's use of the National Guard in Los Angeles, siding with the state of California's argument that the president erred in how the Guard was being activated. The order requires Trump to return control of the National Guard to California Governor Gavin Newsom by noon Friday. In a hearing Thursday, District Judge Charles Breyer rejected an argument by the administration's lawyer that the courts do not have the authority to review a president's decision on whether the National Guard is needed.
That's the difference between a constitutional government and King George. It's not that the leader can simply say something and then it becomes it, the judge said. Breyer said during the hearing that he could not rule on the use of the Marines, though the lawyer for California said they might replace Guard troops. In his order deploying the Guard, Trump said that there had been attempts to impede immigration agents in Los Angeles that constituted, quote, a form of rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. California's Newsom had said that Trump's use of the military was unlawful. The federal government is now turning the military against American citizens, Newsom said in a statement when his state sued to get control of the Guard back. Sending trained war fighters onto the streets is unprecedented and threatens the very core of our democracy. And he's right. They also add that the ruling could still be appealed, but it's a setback for the White House in the dispute over the powers it can assert in cracking down on illegal immigration and over public opposition to it. It was not immediately clear if or when Guard units would be removed.
But now for the not so good news. So Israel, boo, drunk on power and flushed with cash and weapons from the United States, they have led a preemptive strike on Iran, almost certainly kicking off another outrageous and unnecessary conflict. And this time, even Trump is claiming that he told Israel not to strike.
Seems like Trump has lost control of everything because he's also being like, what? Putin won't talk to me. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Bibi won't talk to me.
Maybe not exactly the art of the deal anymore.
No.
So, way to go, everyone. Not only did we spend the past 2 years giving billions to Israel to launch a genocide on the Palestinian people, but now they're kicking off another war with a very big country that has the capacity to really draw this out.
Yeah.
And they killed like a ton of very high-ranking government people in Iran. This is not something they're going to be able to just ignore.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the Associated Press with more. And just so everyone's aware, this news will definitely be outdated by the time this video goes up, but this was the latest as of when we filmed. Israel attacked Iran's capital early Friday in strikes that targeted the country's nuclear program and raised the potential for an all-out war between the two bitter Middle East adversaries. It appeared to be the most significant attack Iran has faced since its 1980s war with Iraq. Multiple sites around the country were hit, and black smoke was seen rising from the nation's main nuclear enrichment facility. The leader of Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard was confirmed dead, Iranian state television reported, a development that would be a body blow to Tehran's governing theocracy and an immediate escalation of the nation's long-simmering conflict.
The report offered few details about what happened to General Hossein Salami, but said that another top guard official, as well as 2 nuclear scientists, were also feared dead. The strikes, which came amid simmering tensions over Iran's rapidly advancing nuclear program, appeared certain to lead to a reprisal that Israel warned could target its own civilian population. In Washington, the Trump administration, which had cautioned Israel against an attack during continued negotiations over Iran's nuclear enrichment program, said that it had not been involved and warned against any retaliation targeting U.S. interests or personnel. Israeli leaders cast the preemptive assault as a fight for the nation's survival and necessary to head off what they described as an imminent threat that Iran would build nuclear bombs, though it remains unclear how close the country is to achieving that or whether it had been planning a strike. So the AP also updated with a confirmation from the International Atomic Energy Agency saying, in a statement on the social platform X, the IAEA's head, Rafael Mariano Grossi, was quoted as saying, the IAEA is closely monitoring the deeply concerning situation in Iran. The agency is in contact with Iranian authorities regarding radiation levels. We are also in contact with our inspectors in the country. Not great.
Yeah, bad. Potential to be very, very, very bad. So
What a fucking just a week. What a week it's been.
Anyway, again, this, like everything else we've been covering, is a developing story, and by the time the video goes up, you probably might have more information out there. Not to pivot away from World War III for a second, but we'll be damned if we're going to leave this video on an upsetting note. We've simply had too much of that recently, so let's at least join hands and laugh at Elon Musk for being a tiny little bitch boy who has come crawling back to Trump, apologizing profusely for calling him a pedophile, and begging him to please,
Mr. Trump,
please take Elon back.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
As if he's like an emotionally stunted teenager going through a breakup.
No, Elon's first true love, Donald Trump, has broken up with him.
It's kind of a throwback too, because back when they hated each other the first time, Trump's like, I could have told him to get down on his knees and beg, and he would have done it.
And now he's quite literally doing that.
So here's the New York Times. President Trump received a phone call from Elon Musk late on Monday night, outreach that led to a public expression of regret by the billionaire early Wednesday for the attacks he had lodged against the president in their extraordinary public showdown last week, according to 3 people briefed on the conversation. The call came after the tech entrepreneur spoke privately on Friday with the Vice President, J.D. Vance, and the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, about a path to a truce.
Those conversations paved the way for the strikingly chastened tone Mr. Musk struck in an X post early Wednesday, in which he wrote, I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far.
Bitch.
Yeah. Hey, go post a public apology, bitch, and maybe I'll talk to you. Like, I guarantee you it went down like that.
Elon, you're going to have to apologize publicly.
You're going to have to do better than that. Asked by reporters Wednesday evening if he felt he was in a better place after Mr. Musk's outreach, the president was non-committal. I really haven't thought too much about it, he said.
Guess we'll see. I don't know.
As he arrived with First Lady Melania Trump at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts for an opening night performance of Les Miserables, which, by the way, is arguably the most ironic fucking performance the president could see right now.
Well, they didn't, like, J.D. Vance was like, I didn't know what it was about. Is that one about the singing barber?
Yeah, he made a joke about it, and he's like, and my wife laughed and laughed. She said, JD, you're the funniest guy in the whole room. You should be up on the stage doing stand-up.
Because theater's, like, gay and shit, so, like...
Yeah, you wouldn't want to act like you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, Donald Trump,
He loves theater.
Yeah, but I'm certain he didn't pull any actually, like, lasting material out of this that he would maybe hold against his own... personally held beliefs.
No, he, much like how he fast forwards to the fights in Bloodsport, I think in the musicals, he is fully dozing off between the songs.
Yeah.
Between the numbers.
Yeah, he's like,
oh, that's a great number.
It's a great tune. I don't know what the lyrics are, but it's got a beat. Anyways, for the groveling continued. For his part, Mr. Vance told reporters that he could not recall if he spoke with Mr. Musk last week. But yes, I have spoken to Elon and the president about trying to ensure that Elon is publicly supporting and privately supporting the president's agenda. Mr. Musk had spent several days signaling that he wanted to make up with the president after the 2 men engaged in a sharp series of personal attacks last Thursday that played out from the Oval Office and on social media. It remains to be seen how Mr. Trump will handle the attempted rapprochement and whether the 2 men's relationship can be restored.
I don't know. It's gonna take a while before I can trust you again.
I don't know, Elon. I don't think you've done enough groveling yet.
I haven't really thought about it, actually. Oh, who's this? I don't recognize your voice.
Sorry.
I don't... Oh, it's Elon. Oh.
It is like... And of course, we know that this is so fucking inconsequential, especially compared to everything else going on. But it is very funny to see Elon so pathetic. And you gotta wonder if maybe this past weekend is the first time he has attempted to sober up in months, because this does seem like the regret you would feel after a fucking week-long bender.
This is like a 6-month bender.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, like, when you like, if you sober up and you're like, oh fuck, what did I do? It seems almost like that.
Can you even stop taking ketamine if you're taking it like daily for that long? Like, how does that work?
We'll see. Because
I don't know enough about ketamine to answer that, but I'm curious. You'll answer.
Yeah. Anyways, you know, at least there's that. At least Elon sucks still. And he looks like a little bitch boy.
Yep.
Anyways,
Beta.
yes. Total beta activity. Low T.
Yeah. Not a Sigma.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, negative aura.
Negative aura.
And
Rizless.
very low riz.
Low Riz and low T.
That's right. Anyways, yes, go to nokings.org, find the local or the rally closest to you, and attend. We'll be back with some weird news, and by gosh, hopefully it's funny. I did hear that someone released a raccoon in the store, so more animal news potentially on the horizon.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Yeah.
More of that, please.
Please. And then another please like the video. Even when it's bad news, it helps our channel grow. It helps sustain viewership, and we really, really appreciate it. If you're feeling frisky, hit the join button, become a paying member, and make sure you're subscribed. And of course, if for some reason you need to be caught up about our actual lived experience in the city of Los Angeles over the past week, we have 2 other videos that you can watch right over here. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and we will see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.